Yes, we'll be back from the break. You're still watching Smart Means Business. I'm Anju Barije, and definitely giving you the right information here on your daily Kickstarter. I believe it's very key and very crucial when it comes to decision making and implementation at the same time. But of course, like I told you, I'll be joined with a guest to have a discussion on the cashless economy where Uganda stands at. But before we get into this discussion, I would still love to remind you that the markets on the Zabo platform, as I speak right now, they are on. And for you to be a part of this, it's quite simple. *922# should be the USSD code that can lead you to that possibility to buy these bonds and securities for a fee of just 15,000 Uganda shillings. Now the markets opened at 8:15 a.m. and they'll be running all the way to 3:15 p.m. East African time, and this is going to be effective up to Friday. It runs Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends or the public holidays when this markets cannot be accessed. But of course, despite that, you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make yourself quite some huge profits with something which I believe is very key and influential when it comes to your financial development as an individual. Zabo made this a reality. And also remember, on top of *292#, you have to register with your national identification number for you to proceed efficiently. Now Zabo says, my money, my future, and the old East Africa tells you, do something new. Remember, it is the year 2023. Well, as we head into this discussion, just a brief on that. As we know, everywhere it's been the talk all over the world, talking about a cashless economy, a time when we don't move with our cash in simple terms, but we can actually do digital transactions through the mobile money services, the Visa card, and so many, crypto also inclusive, and so many. But of course, we want to understand, as the world is really transitioning into that direction, where does Uganda stand? How are we ready? Or we are still too backward to really understand? Or are we even operating a cashless economy with our ignorance? Because sometimes things can happen when people don't know actually what is going on. And now for that reason, I'm joined with Victor Ntamu Gabumwe, as he's a lawyer and is going to be taking us through this very interesting discussion. Victor, good morning and welcome on the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
Yeah, very welcome. There is a talk about the cashless economy, and we want to understand our position as Uganda. How are we ready? You know, are we competing effectively, or we are nowhere to be?
Well, yeah, the cashless economy is here. The world is moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think the question we should be asking though is not where are we? It should be, should we be left behind? Because
should we be left? Okay.
We shouldn't be left behind, because at every moment in history, there are people who move forward, and then there's those people who are left behind, and in the end you end up paying the price of being left behind. So the question as to are we really ready? Where are we in as far as that talk and conversation is concerned? If it isn't there, then we should have it. Okay. If we're having it, then the question will be, are we having it the right way? Okay. But definitely the cashless economy is here. We have to take a piece of that. Okay. Otherwise, we shall stay deep down in the law. Yeah.
Some member of parliament was mentioning something about our infrastructure, and for him, in his observation, it's like we are nowhere close.
Okay, definitely. We know Uganda is a developing country. We don't have access to the resources that countries that are way ahead of us have. Technologically, we are not that advanced. Our education system is also still down in the low. People who do computer science and software, and you'll find them in town selling machines and doing merchandise instead of sitting down. Our innovation levels are still a bit low. Yes, I mean, some efforts have been put, but we are still a bit low. But then you also need to remember that Uganda runs a private sector-led economy, and ultimately there are certain key players that are in that economy. Yeah. And this is where, of course, the advantage is that having international banks on the market has advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages is that actually their systems are to a standard that is internationally recognized. So at least you can trust that in as far as systems are concerned, at least some key players are up to the test.
Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. Now, if we can take a look at what are the associated advantages that we can actually experience when we adapt to this.
Okay, so there are various advantages. One, we are in, for context, we are in a globalized economy.
Yeah.
Okay, cash used to be very nice. Okay, in a very small, concentrated economy. Okay, I can move from here, go down the streets, buy a soda, buy some food to eat, and pay cash. Okay, but now in a globalized economy where I want to access a product being sold on Amazon as an e-commerce, a product being sold by Jumia, but so in the end there's that convenience that comes in. So that's the context. Now when you're speaking about a cashless economy, you're looking at a globalized sector. Okay, you're not looking at me buying things from down the street. You're looking at me having access to the US market, having
US
access
markets.
to the Asian markets.
Yes.
So in the end, we need that access. Okay, so it's not that you're going to board a plane and you have a briefcase of cash and drop it to the other side. So that is the context. Now, the advantage is, of course, comes with convenience. Okay, that is to the individual. Your transactions happen in real time.
Real time. Yeah.
Okay. Then the other advantages. Now, these other advantages are more for the state. Okay. The state is a very strong entity. We live in a structured society. The state wants to know when a transaction happens, who is where is it coming from and where is it headed? They want an interest in that particular transaction. So the advantage that now a cashless economy gives us is that we now have traceability.
Traceability.
Okay. With cash, I can guarantee you it's completely anonymous. Unless you go to a shop and stop me to know what I eat, what I drink, you cannot. But with a cashless economy, you'll know if I order something off Jumia, if I order something off Amazon, you'll know that Victor eats KFC on Tuesday, Victor eats this on Wednesday, like that. So there's and that aids the state in economic planning, taxation, and all those other related instances. So it's advantageous to that extent. Okay, and so you have traceability, you have convenience,
yeah.
And then you have future planning, economic planning, because the state doesn't plan for 10 years to come. They should be planning for 50 years to come.
50 years.
Okay.
You mentioned something about when somebody talks about a cashless economy, it doesn't mean going to holding a briefcase of money, you go to the New York State. Now that dimension was quite interesting. I can see now, to me, it's like more availing of opportunities.
Okay.
Recently, we had a platform which I think was sanctioned, not sanctioned particularly, but the Capital Markets Authority kind of came out and saying they don't recognize it. Though I won't get so deep into that, we shall not, but it could allow Ugandans to actually transact on the New York Stock Exchange market. Let's take a look at, do we have such scenarios in Uganda? Basing on that, what are those other various opportunities that are actually available, which Ugandans don't know, but they can actually access them to diaspora? Okay,
so ultimately what you want to be interested in is first from the transactions bit before we get to, because the scenario you're using is actually a money market scenario. Okay, now so that is for long-term investment. Okay, if you have your money here, you can invest in the New York Stock Exchange market. Okay, you should be able to invest.
So we have the platforms.
So so now the question was from a regulatory perspective. Okay, so ultimately markets the concept of a free market, as for those who have done some economics, as enunciated by Adam Smith, it doesn't fit the current society that we are living in, because ultimately what the free market is telling you is you can do what you want on the market, and there are two elements there. The market is always right. That's the first one. And
the market is always right.
And two, if you are a good player, the market will reward you. Okay. If you're a bad player, the market will definitely punish you.
Okay.
And that concept, as I'm talking about it, that's what led to the 2008 financial crisis. So now we have now more regulatory perspectives we need to look into when we are considering money markets and any financial markets. So that's the scenario you're talking about. So Capital Markets Authority definitely came out and said, well, we don't know who you are. Yes, you have your products on the market. People can use your products. But the question is, we don't know you. You've just come onto the market. We need to oversee and see and you pass through our tests so that we can understand whether or not you're good to go. Of course, two problems come from that. Innovation is default, is halted. Transactions are also halted. Okay, so what now Capital Markets Authority wanted was, okay, before you roll out your products, first come this side and then we see, can you get licensed? Are your markets, there are certain principal issues. Do you have consumer protection? Do you have investor protection? If something happens, what is the remedy for your depositors, for your clients? So that is the thing. So you should be able to have access to that market, okay, worldwide, because we live in a globalized economy, okay. Like it or not, if something happens in the US, it's going to have an effect on Uganda today. It definitely has. So now that is from the money market point of view. But then when we come to convenience and you see, if you're in a small society, for instance, you may be wealthy, okay, you may be having money, but you are treated to substandard products, okay, and yet you want to access a market that has better products.
Yeah, okay. So
we need to have that access where someone says, okay, I need to access. Let's say I want to buy an iPhone, okay? But the current market in Uganda only delivers, let's say, second-hand used iPhones.
Exactly.
So should I board a plane and go to the US so that I can access the real original thing? So if it's being sold off Amazon and these guys have a shipping line, they can deliver. Why should I not be able to access. that product? Okay, so that's where the issue comes. Now, when we speak about, when we come to Uganda then, of course we'll definitely have to classify Ugandans and understand contextually. Are Ugandans ready? Which part of, because there's what we call legitimacy and there's what we call necessity.
Legitimacy and necessity. Okay.
Is it necessary for Ugandans at the moment?
And
is it legitimate?
Is it?
So now that's when we get to now ask those questions. Okay, so if we're having the conversation as far as necessity is concerned, there are key indicators.
Yeah.
Okay. One, we had COVID-19, which brought us to the reality that not every time you're going to shake someone's hand and issue out a coin or a paper. Okay. So once COVID-19 came out, we saw a rise in e-commerce platforms. I think there's something like Chikubo Online. There's something, very many sprang up. Okay, and then we also saw a rise in volumes, the volumes of transactions on the economy. So the indicators as far as the transactions are concerned. So the cash economy, the transaction is my money leaves my hand, it goes to you.
Yeah.
But in a cashless economy, we are looking at digital payment mechanisms.
Okay.
So when we look at Uganda's context, is it necessary that actually we go cashless? Okay. So in 2019, a legislation called the National Payment Systems Act was brought.
Yeah. Okay.
Followed by the National Payment Systems regulations, followed by the National Payment Systems Agency regulations, followed by the National Payment Systems Sandbox regulations. So just to go through them, the National Payment Systems Act just provides for regulation of payment systems.
Okay.
Previously, mobile money payments used to be done at the Uganda Communications Commission licensing. So they had to bring them under the Bank of Uganda, and there's what they call the National Payment Systems Desk at Bank of Uganda. And then the regulations also had to come in just to broaden how they're going to operate. Then the agency regulations now also came into, when you look at the market, we have various mobile money points almost everywhere. We have wave points almost everywhere. So the agency regulations now regulate how does, what's the relationship between the National Payment Systems platform that is licensed and their agents within the market. And then the sandbox regulations, Section 16 of the National Payment Systems Act provides for a sandbox that if you have an innovation and you want to roll it onto the market, bring it, let us look at it using the sandbox. If it fits the test, you roll it onto the market. So the regulations for the sandbox relates to how do you bring a product into the sandbox and how do we evaluate it and how do we get to release it. Okay, so in as far as legislation and policy is concerned, at least you can say there is some regulation, there is some legislation. So let's go into the side of the market. Is the market reactionary to these things? The statistics really show you that from that time, and I think the Bank of Uganda Financial Stability Report put it, brought in some bit of statistics. In 20, I'm using none of 2022, ending March 2022, because none of ending March 2023 is not yet.
It's not yet out, definitely
available. So there were, when you look at the volume of mobile money transactions, it increased exponentially. When you look at the volume of internet banking, it increased exponentially. If you look at the volume of mobile banking, it's because mobile banking is different from mobile money. It increased. If you look at credit cards and debit cards, all that increased. Now, to that extent, actually, you can realize that the market is reactionary to these things. Now, the thing with statistics is that when you read statistics, you may think that actually the market is okay, it's growing. And yes, with the numbers, you'll say it is growing. But then the question is the households. What is happening at the household?
That's a very important question. Very, because I've also observed it. Statistics vis-a-vis what is really actually happening in the household.
So when you get the households, you're going to now classify Ugandans and say, well, we have the middle class economy in Uganda. These are the guys who spend around 200,000 or 300,000 a day. They wake up or they drive. You have some money for fuel. You have some money for data. You go to work, so you want to buy some newspapers. You have children who are going to school, so you call them and you're like, okay, can I send you something? Is everything okay? And that's the middle class economy. Transactions in the middle class economy, these are the guys who can afford to go to some of the brands on the market, KFC, Cafe Java's, Java House, and all those other middle class. So those ones, if you try to look through deeper in the statistics, just beyond the numbers, those are the people taking part in the statistics. Now there is another economy below that economy. So these are guys who you're living to see what is happening tomorrow. You don't necessarily have something planned for the next day.
You have no idea.
You have no idea what's going on. So that's why you get a scenario where you'll get a border rider. You drive, they ride you from here to let's say I don't know, Parliament or whichever, just like your usual routes. Then you're going to be like, I don't have cash in my pocket right now, but can you give me your mobile money now?
Mobile money, exactly. Interesting.
And then they're going to tell you, okay, you see, he's charging you 5,000 shillings. So are you going to send him 5,000 shillings? Are you going to add in 1,000 for withdrawal?
You have to add in something.
Are you going to add exactly? And then look at the inconvenience it has on him now to ride now from this point to the next mobile money
to go and withdraw.
So now that's why now you start asking questions. Are we really ready on the transactions and the economic side of things? Then now the other key indicator is when it comes to technology. Again, we say these are digital payments.
Digital payments,
So I would want to interest you in a very interesting case of Ida Tiko versus Centenary Rural Development Bank. This is a very old, she was a very old lady who had partially eyesight issues. She goes to Centenary Rural Development Bank, opens a bank account, and the bank account comes with a Center agent.
Center agent,
is it Center agent, something like that. Literally their mobile banking system.
Center,
So she of course she signs the and agrees to the contract and all. She had a daughter who was helping her through all that entire process. So she goes back home, and then I think she had deposited about 56 million on the account. And then along the way, withdrawals started happening on her phone, and then when she went to check the money, there's no money. So
withdrawals happened without her consent?
Without her consent. So, and this is why I want you to get interested in that case. Because now the question was, who do we blame for these transactions? Because the transactions are happening on her phone.
On her phone,
Yes. So who do we blame for the transactions? Are we going to go to the bank and say, you authorized transactions without the consent
of the the account holder. Yeah.
Now, in a traditional banking sense, where you used to go off the counter with your book. I don't know that you your book, and then
okay. By the time I went into it was more of a Visa card.
Visa cards. Yeah. So I'm using that scenario because I also wasn't there, but my parents used to have those books.
Okay.
So in that sense, you could hold the banker absolutely liable. Okay? Because they must have authenticated the signature because they're seeing it physically.
Physically, yes.
It is happening in real time. But now with digital payments, okay, the banker can only do certain things. So in that case, the judge went ahead to discuss what things the banker should do. They should have a very big fraud detection mechanism. They should be able to constantly update you about your account and remind you to keep changing your PIN and keep changing your password and all those things. So and then they go down and say where the banker has done all those things. Okay. Now the question will be, what should the customer do? So now the line was drawn at the point where who is likely to make sure that fraud doesn't happen on your phone? It is ultimately you.
It's you responsible.
So if I get access to your phone, first leave where the cyber attacks. We're going to
get there.
Now, when I get to your phone and I make withdrawals and I enter your PIN, okay, that should be absolutely on you.
It's your responsibility. You're the owner. Yeah.
You're the owner. But now the question that I find in that issue really is the duty of the banker should even be more increased, because he is someone who comes to the banker and then signs documents and all.
Yes.
And yes, they usually the bankers will tell you go and get independent advice from a lawyer or an accountant or a banker. These are professions where the fees are so high. But I just want to open up a bank account. Why can't you go through for me and tell me, okay, this line means this line means this, this line means this, so that I understand that if I do this is likely to happen. And then of course we also have what we call the standardized form contracts these days with banks. It's standard form. You don't get to say, okay, I don't like this, please remove it. Okay, I don't like. The thing is, you want an account, this is what it is. If you don't like it, go to the next bank.
Go to the next bank. Okay.
So and that is the issue with again, that's the disadvantage with the private sector-led economy. Okay, regulation, like I said, regulation will go very, just like I've laid down these laws for you. They go just around just the small bit. They don't go deeper to tell the banker, do this, do that. You should be doing this. So when we get issues, then now we start going to discuss, okay, now who should have made sure this doesn't happen? Who should have made sure this doesn't happen? So ultimately now, when we look at those three indicators, okay, the regulation is there, okay? The economy, yes, the transactions have increased as evidenced by the finance, the report. But then now to now the individuals at the household level. Household, what I mean by household is I want to buy tomatoes, I want to buy simple things. Are those guys interested in the cashless economy?
Because I'm assuming this aspect of we've adapted it. The person selling the tomatoes has also adapted it. I just come with my mobile phone, tomatoes for 500. Because you see now, recently, when the central bank is planning to erase out the 1,000 K note.
Yeah.
And somebody asks, okay, the coin is still there, but I want us to picture a scenario whereby we didn't have a coin for 1,000, and somebody would say, so does it mean I'm going to start holding 2,000? How are we going to get change and all this? But you see the printing costs that are being, incurred and all that. But still, I know there is also a cost to maintain that cashless economy, as much as, because I know it's running on networks, fixing and all that. But definitely, we are going to be looking at that after the break, and we also believe that there are opportunities that are presented if imagining a scenario where the entire world went cashless. Still, I believe there are opportunities to really grab at that particular perspective. But anyway, when we return from the break, we're going to be proceeding with this discussion. It's quite very interesting, but still to remind you, the Markets on the Zabo platform are already on. Star 292 hash is the code for you there, which will avail you with the options where you'll be in position to actually buy government bonds and securities for a fee of just 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Now the markets open at exactly 8:15, and they're going to be running all the way to 3:15 p.m. East African time, Monday up to Friday, apart from the weekends and the public holidays when those markets are out of reach. But of course, despite that, you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make yourself quite to make profits, something which I believe is very key and influential when it comes to your financial growth and development as an individual. Zabo make this a reality for you, and remember, on top of *292#, you have to register with your national identification number for you to proceed excellently. Now, Zabo says, "My money, my future," and all that East Africa tells you, do something new for yourself. Remember, it is 2023. And now let's get into the break. When we return, definitely we shall proceed with the cashless economy.